Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkripa Tamam Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam
Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya.
So welcome all of you for this Chaitanya Charitamrta session where we were traveling with Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu and we had reached Ranganath Kshetra. So Ranganath Kshetra in Sri Rangam Dham, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met a Brahman Vipra we saw in the last session who was so ecstatic while reading Bhagavad Gita, and he also expresses that he is not very well read, he does not know things properly, but the only thing is because his spiritual master has asked him to read Bhagavad Gita, he attempts to read Bhagavad Gita every single day despite people mocking at him, joking at him, but he does not get disturbed by that. He's just focused on following the instructions of his Guru Maharaj, and that is what pleases Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so much. He glorifies this Brahmana. Also, this Brahmana reveals that just this thought that the Supreme Lord Krishna is riding the chariot of his devotee Arjun, that itself gives him so much of ecstasy. So that is his constant meditation on Bhagavad Gita, and following the instruction of his Guru Maharaj is his only duty which he is doing. So we were seeing that how the conversation was progressing, and when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke, Brahmana could recognize that he is not different from the Supreme Lord Krishna himself. So let's get further back into that conversation. So in this section where different people Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met, and we were talking about this Brahmana. तबे महाप्रभु तानरे करैला शिक्षणा ए बात कहा ना करिहा प्रकाशना.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then taught the Brahmana very thoroughly and requested him not to disclose the fact that he was Lord Krishna himself. So we see that when a devotee in the beginning stages, he takes the instructions of his spiritual master very seriously and sincerely applies it in his life with lot of determination, and he gradually attains success. So this is the story of this Brahmana, and by his sincere following the instructions of his spiritual master, he gained the mercy of the Lord, he gained the favor of the Lord, that he could understand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was non-different from Krishna. So here we see that Lord, being very pleased by him, by this Brahmana, taught him very thoroughly. Karaila Shikshana. So he was taught very thoroughly, and of course Lord Chaitanya also instructed him that please do not disclose this revelation or this understanding that you have that I am non-different from Krishna, because otherwise it will disturb Lord's pastimes.
Sri Vipra Mahaprabhur bada bhakta haila, chari masa Prabhu sangha kabuna chadila. That Brahmana became a great devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and for 4 continuous months. So Mahaprabhu was there for this 4 months Chaturmas period. So for 4 continuous months, he did not give up Lord's company. So he was there constantly with Mahaprabhu. Mata bhatta grihe rahe gaura chandra, nirantara bhatta sange Krishna kathananda.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained at the house of Venkata Bhatta and constantly talked with him about Lord Krishna. In this way, he was very happy. So, for this entire 4 months, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the invitation of Venkat Bhatt, stayed with him, and they constantly talked about Krishna Katha. And Lord was very, very blissful.
Shri Vaishnava Bhatta Seve Lakshmi Narayana, Tanra Bhakti Dekhi Prabhu Tushta Haila Mana. Being a Vaishnava in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, Venkat Bhatt worshipped the deities of Lakshmi and Narayan. Seeing his pure devotion, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very satisfied. So not only he stayed, but he was very pleased. So whatever time they would get together, they would discuss Krishna Katha, and other times Mahaprabhu would observe. And in all his various activities, Venkat Bhatt would reflect pure devotion towards the Supreme Lord. Nirantara Tanra Sange Haila Sakhya Bhava, Hasya Parihasa Duhe Sakhira Swabhava.
Constantly associating with each other, Nirantara Tanra Sange, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Venkat Bhatta gradually developed a friendly relationship. Indeed, sometimes they laughed and joked together.
Prabhu kahe bhatta toma Lakshmi Thakurani, Kanta Vaksha Stita Pati Vrata Shiromani. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as it is mentioned, that they became good friends, and they would have some lighter, jolly movements also, where they would make jokes and laugh about certain things. So here is such episode. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Bhattacharya, your worshipable goddess of fortune Lakshmi always remains on the chest of Narayan, and she is certainly the most chaste woman in the creation. So that is the position of goddess Lakshmi.
And from this we understand that as devotees of the Lord, we should also be very, very chaste to the Lord. Irrespective of what happens in our life, sometimes there good happens or something bad happens. Irrespective of that, we should remain chaste to the Lord and to his devotional service.
Amara Thakura Krishna Gopa Gocharaka, Sada Vihana ke ne chahe Tahara Sangama.
However, my Lord, now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, however, my Lord is Lord Shri Krishna, a cowherd boy who's engaged in tending cows. Amara Thakur Krishna Gopa Gocharaka. Why is it that Lakshmi, being such a chaste wife, wants to associate with my Lord? So this is a question that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is asking Venkat Bhatta, that my Lord is Krishna, he's a cowherd boy, he's just doing herding the cows. Then why is it that Lakshmi Devi, she's just such a chaste woman, chaste to Lord Narayan, then why is she wanting to associate with my Lord Krishna? Ilagi sukha bhoga chhadi chira kala vrata niyam kari tapa karila apara.
Just to associate with Krishna, Lakshmi abandoned all transcendental happiness in Vaikuntha and for a long time accepted vows and regulative principles and performed unlimited austerities. So now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling that you are the worshipper of Lakshmi Narayan, I am the worshipper of Krishna. Now it is very interesting that your Lakshmi Narayan, Lakshmi is very chaste to her husband, but she is observing so many fasts, regulative principles, so many austerities just to come with Krishna. Now Krishna is another man. So why this lady who's very chaste to her husband, why is she even thinking of enjoying with other man? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said, "O Lord, we do not know how the serpent Kaliya attained such an opportunity to be touched by the dust of your lotus feet. Even the goddess of fortune for this and performed austerities for centuries, giving up all other desires and observing austere vows. Indeed, we do not know how the serpent Kaliya got such an opportunity." So now this verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam, and this is recited by the wives of Kaliya. So if we remember in the Kaliya pastime, Krishna actually danced on the hoods of Kaliya. And so much so that Kaliya was bleeding and Kaliya may die also. So here the wives went and they started pleading to Krishna. And how they started is that it is so rare to get the dust of your lotus feet, which means just getting the touch of your feet is very, very difficult. What to talk of touch? Even the dust which touches your feet, that itself is so difficult to obtain. And my husband, what did he do? How come you are dancing on his hood? And then they quoted this incident, that goddess of fortune. So goddess of fortune refers to Lakshmi Devi. So they were saying that Lakshmi Devi performed so many austerities for centuries and yet she did not had this opportunity.
भट्ट कहे कृष्ण नारायण एक स्वरूप कृष्ण ते अधिक लीला वैदग्यादि रूपा. Venkat Bhatta then said, Lord Krishna and Lord Narayan are one and the same, but the pastimes of Krishna are more relishable due to their sportive nature. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was joking with Venkat Bhatta, but Venkat Bhatta here spoke correctly and he spoke from his proper understanding of the Vedic scriptures. What did he say? That Krishna Narayan Eka I Swarupa, they are actually one person. Lord Krishna and Lord Narayan are one person. They are non-different from each other. But he said that Krishna's pastimes, Adhika Lila Vaidagyadi Rupa. So the pastimes of Lord Krishna are more relishable because of their sportive nature. तारा स्पर्श नाही आया पतिव्रत धामा कौतुके लक्ष्मी चाहे ना कृष्णेरा संगमा.
Since Narayan and Krishna are the same personality, Lakshmi's association with Krishna does not break her vow of chastity. Rather, it was in great fun that the goddess of fortune wanted to associate with Lord Krishna. So Venkat Bhatt actually knew the truth. Venkat Bhatt knew that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was now teasingly asking him certain questions. So he is speaking the real tattva, the absolute knowledge, that Narayan is a form of Krishna with opulence. So actually, Narayan and Krishna, basically, they are the same person. So Krishna is two-armed and Narayan is four-armed, but yet they are the same person. And then he's saying that Lakshmi, if she desires to enjoy with Krishna, it is actually natural because Krishna is also her husband only. Her husband has taken some other form. So if the wife goes to enjoy with that husband who has taken some other external form, still it is the same. And in fact, indeed, this other form is more fun-loving. Fun-loving and cheerful, and more activities are happening there. So she also desires to go and join her husband in that thing. So then what is the problem?
सिद्धान्ततस्त्वभेदेऽपि श्रीश कृष्ण स्वरूपयोः रसेनोत्कृष्यते कृष्णा रूपम् एष रसस्थितिः. Venkat Bhatta continued, according to transcendental realization, there is no difference between the form of Narayan and Krishna. Yet, in Krishna, there is a special transcendental attraction due to the conjugal mellow, and consequently, he surpasses Narayan. This is the conclusion of transcendental mellows. So, this verse is was quoted by many devotees at that time, and they would explain it, and then later it was also recorded in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So, according to this verse, one, there is no difference between Lord Narayan and Lord Krishna. They are just same person, like moon. Whether we see moon on the in the beginning, the first day of the moon, the new moon, or we see in Purnima, or we see it any other day, the moon shape may change, the size may change, the light coming from moon may change, but moon is moon. So similarly, Narayan and Krishna, whether they have 2 arms or 4 arms, is the same person. But it is mentioned here that the speciality of Krishna is, and what makes him so much more attractive is the conjugal mellow, the rasa which the Lord enjoys with his lovers, and therefore he surpasses Narayan. So this is being spoken by Venkat Bhatta. So Venkat Bhatta is giving an explanation to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The one, Lakshmi Devi is chaste because the husband has changed dress. That doesn't mean that he no longer remains her husband. So one, Lakshmi Devi is chaste. And why is Lakshmi Devi attracted to Krishna? Because of his sportive nature, he said earlier. Now he's saying that because of the conjugal mellow, which is very attractive and which surpasses that of Narayan. So Lakshmi Devi naturally wanted to enjoy with Krishna. Krishna sange pativrata dharma nahe nasha adhik labha paye ara rasa vilasa.
The goddess of fortune considered that her vow of chastity would not be damaged by her relationship with Krishna. Rather, by associating with Krishna, she could enjoy the benefit of the Ras dance. So actually, Lakshmi ji wanted to enter into the Ras Lila pastime of Krishna. So if she was allowed, if she could enter, so she can benefit by participating in that. In fact, in the sense that she and her husband could more intimately connect on the Ras Lila. So there is no problem. That is what he continues telling.
Vinodini Lakshmirhaya Krishna Abhilasha Ihate ki dosha kene karaha parihasa. Venkat Bhatta further explained, Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is also an enjoyer of transcendental bliss. Therefore, if she wanted to enjoy herself with Krishna, what fault is there? Why are you joking so about this? So now he has turned around the question to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he's saying that I personally don't see any fault in this. Mother Lakshmi, she's goddess of fortune. So she's also an enjoyer of transcendental bliss and she wants to do it with Krishna. What is the problem with this? Why are you joking about this? So of course Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to reveal a very important fact which he'll be doing shortly. Prabhu kahe dosh nahi hami jani rasa na paila Lakshmi shastri hashuni.
Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I know that there is no fault on the part of the goddess of fortune, but still she could not enter into the Ras dance. We hear this from the revealed scripture. So Mahaprabhu is again not speaking randomly, but he's speaking on the basis of scriptures, which he will be quoting in further verses. So he's telling that there is no fault, but I'm just wondering like why she could not enter, because ultimately the scripture says that Lakshmi wanted to enter into Ras Leela. She performed so many austerities, tapasya and all, but yet she was denied the entry.
When Lord Shri Krishna was dancing with the gopis in the Rasa Leela, the gopis were embraced around the neck by the Lord's arms. This transcendental favor was never bestowed upon the goddess of fortune or the other consorts in the spiritual world, nor was such a thing ever imagined by the most beautiful girls in the heavenly planets. girls whose bodily luster and aroma exactly resemble the beauty and fragrance of lotus flowers. And what to speak of worldly women who may be very, very beautiful according to material estimation. So this verse is from the 10th canto or 47th chapter, where this is being explained in detail that it was only the gopis who could participate in the Ras Lila pastime of the Lord. And in that pastime, Lord would embrace the gopis and he would place his hands around the neck of the gopis. And this favor was never bestowed upon the Lakshmi Devi or any other consort in the spiritual world. So we are discussing that how the gopis could had an experience with the Lord which was not available to the Lakshmi Devi or the spiritual world. And then what to talk about the heavenly damsels or the ordinary worldly women.
लक्ष्मी के ने ना पाइला इहार की कारण तब करी कैचे कृष्णा पाइला श्रुति गण. But can you tell me why the goddess of fortune Lakshmi could not enter the Ras dance? The authorities of Vedic knowledge could enter the dance and associate with Krishna. So Mahaprabhu is speaking another pastime, we'll see shortly, that the Vedic scriptures, the
Shruti Gana,
the Vedic Shruti, the personification of that, they could actually enter into the Ras Lila. So if those personalities could enter into the Ras Lila, why not Lakshmi?
So this is becoming really a big mystery. Goddess of fortune, she's a chaste wife. She's not able to enter Rasa dance. Okay, so there must be something about it. And now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving, others are able to enter. Shruti Gana could enter, but why Lakshmi Devi is not able to enter? So the mystery is deepening.
Shruti paya Lakshmi na paya ki karana bhatta kahe iha praveshite naramorana.
Having been asked by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu why the goddess of fortune could not enter into the Rasa dance, whereas the authorities on Vedic knowledge could, Venkat Bhatt replied, Iha pravishite nare mura man. I cannot enter into the mysteries of this behavior. So now Venkat Bhatt had come to the end of his understanding. He knew all this, but now he had no answer. Ami jiva shudra buddhi sahaje asthira Ishwarera lila koti samudra gambhira.
So he is telling his own limitation. Venkat Bhatt is saying that I am an ordinary human being. Since my intelligence is very limited and I am easily agitated, my mind cannot enter within the deep ocean of the pastimes of the Lord. So Lord's pastimes are the deep ocean, Samudra Gambhir. So he's telling, I cannot actually enter, I cannot actually understand that.
And from this also we can understand the amazing quality of Venkat Bhatt. Now this is not an ordinary person. He is an exceptional, very exalted Vaishnava. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted his invitation, stayed with him for 4 months, day in and day out, and he was rendering direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he was definitely not an ordinary human being. And yet, this is the humility which is exhibited by the devotees. He's saying, and this is not just for saying sake, this is his realization about himself. I am an ordinary living being and my intelligence is also very limited. And I mean, these words are so amazing, that I'm easily agitated. Of course, Lord will not be even visible and will not stay with somebody whose senses and mind are not under his control. But here he's saying, I am easily agitated, my mind. So therefore he is accepting his limitations. And he's saying that Lord's pastimes are deep like an ocean. They're infinite. Who can actually understand? Unless Lord reveals, we cannot really understand the Lord's pastimes. Tumi sakshat se Krishna jana nija karma yare jana ha se jane toma Lila marma.
You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna himself. You know the purport of your activities, and the person whom you enlighten can also understand your pastimes. So now Venkat Bhatt is keeping everything in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's court. He is telling, you are the Supreme Lord. So of course you would know. Why are you asking me? You should answer this question, that why Lakshmi Devi was not allowed. And here he is also relaying an important message as who can understand Lord's pastime. So we need to know that the Lord's pastime cannot be understood by material senses. So if I want to apply my own argument or logic or academic study and I want to try and understand Lord's pastime, it is not possible. First, my senses needs to be purified. And how do I purify my senses? I purify my senses through the process of Bhakti Yoga. So that is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally came to establish how to purify the senses, basically, so that we can actually enter into that deep ocean of Krishna's pastime, so that we can understand. And ultimately, it is in Lord's hand. So if he is pleased by us, a person may not be performing devotional service also, and Krishna can be pleased by that person also. So it's not like a machine or a formula that we force Krishna, okay, I have done 1, 2, 3, 4, I have been chanting 16 rounds for this much time and whatever, and you must reveal the thing. So it is not like that. Krishna's ichha, his desire, he has to become pleased and then he reveals.
प्रभु कहे कृष्ण रेखा स्वभाव विलक्षण स्वमाधुर्य सर्वचित्ता करे आकर्षण. The Lord replied, Lord Krishna has a special characteristic. He attracts everyone's heart by the mellow of his personal conjugal love. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu begins from the basic principles. So one thing he says that Lord Krishna has a very special characteristic, and that is that he attracts everyone by swa madhurya. So that madhurya ras, or that conjugal love, and that is very, very attractive and special feature of Krishna. Vrajaloke bhave paye tahara charana tanre ishwakari nahi jane vraja jana.
By following in the footsteps of the inhabitants of the planet known as Vrajlok or Golok Vrindavan, one can attain the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. However, in that planet, the inhabitants do not know that Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Mahaprabhu started describing the glories of the Supreme Lord and who can understand and how one has to take shelter of the Supreme Lord. And when a person comes into the mood of Vrajbasis, then they can understand.
Kehatare putra jane o dukhale bande keha sakha jane jini charitamrta kande. There, someone may accept him as a son and sometimes bind him to a grinding mortar. Someone else may accept him as an intimate friend and, attaining victory over him, playfully mount his shoulders. Now this is impossible in Vaikuntha, where Lord Narayan, Lord Vishnu is the master, and everybody is in awe and reverence of the Lord. So they all worship him and they all serve him as a menial servant. But here in Golok Vrindavan, the devotees, they do not know that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. They just see him. And how do they see him? They accept him as their son. So here, Mother Yashoda is being described. That Mother Yashoda saw Krishna as her son, the son who's dependent on her for food, for protection. And sometimes mother gets angry because the child is very naughty. So she binds him to a grinding mortar. Now that is impossible for us to, for such a thing to happen with Lord Narayan. So who's seen as the master of all. So someone else, now Krishna has so many friends, Sakha Jane, and what do? They play with him, and sometimes they win over Krishna, who is invincible, and then playfully they will say, no, you have lost, I have won, I will ride on you. So that because you have lost, so I will ride on you. So they will climb on Krishna's shoulder and to move around. Vrajendra Nandana Bali Tanre Jane Vraja Jana Aishwarya Jane Nahi Kona Sambandha Manana.
The inhabitants of Rajbhumi know Krishna as the son of Maharaj Nanda, the king of Vrajbhumi, and they consider that they can have no relationship with the Lord in the rasa of opulence. So basically, the devotees of Vrindavan or Vrajbhumi, they do not see any opulence of Krishna. They consider that he is a small, notorious boy who stays with Nanda and Yashoda, who's actually their son. That is all. So they cannot think that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He is the master, he is the controller, he is the proprietor of everything that exists. Without knowing that, and yet whenever there is a difficulty, or whenever there is no difficulty also, all they try to do is to please Krishna. All they know is to take shelter of Krishna, but simultaneously without being cognizant of the opulence of the Supreme Lord. So it's a very sweet relationship. So out of sweetness of that love and affection and devotion, they connect to Krishna, not because he's the controller or the master.
Vrajaloke bhave ye karaye bhajana, se jana paya vraje vrajendra nandana. One who worships the Lord by following in the footsteps of the inhabitants of Vrajbhumi attains him in the transcendental planet of Vraja, where he is known as the son of Maharaj Nanda. So Vrajvasis, as we have been discussing, they do not know, they do not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is the center of their lives. He is the center of their relationships with everyone. He is the center of their love. That's where all their love is focused. Whether the devotee is a servant or a friend or a son or a lover, and they do not know Krishna, they do not see Krishna as a supreme master. So what happens is, because they do not see or consider Krishna as the supreme Lord, so the God's powers which invoke awe and reverence are not there, and therefore the Brajvasis can have more intimate relationships, or the most intimate relationship with God which is possible. I mean, the most possible of intimate relationships is possible only for Brajvasis, because they don't see the opulence of God. Chaitanya
Mahaprabhu then quoted, "The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, the son of Mother Yashoda, is accessible to those devotees engaged in spontaneous loving service, but he is not easily accessible to mental speculators, to those striving for self-realization by severe austerities and penances, or to those who consider the body the same as the self." So actually Mahaprabhu is telling here, he is quoting this verse from the 10th canto, 9th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, where he is telling that Krishna can be attained only through one means. And what is that? Spontaneous loving service, or Raganuga Bhakti. So only that is the way to attain Krishna. Otherwise, if I'm a Jnani, or if I'm a yogi, or if I'm a karmi, it is actually very difficult.
Shruti Gana Gopi Gane Ranugatahana, Vrajeshwari Suta Bhaje Gopi Bhavalana. The authorities in the Vedic literature, who are these? Shruti-gan, who are known as Shruti-ganas, they worshipped Lord Krishna in the ecstasy of the gopis and followed in their footsteps. So these Shruti-ganas, they understood the glories of the gopis, of the Vrajvasis, and they wanted to serve the Lord, and they wanted to enter the Ras-Lila pastimes. But even after that understanding, they could not do so. So what they did was, they took birth in Vrajbhumi as gopis, and they became engrossed in the gopis' love. Then only they were allowed in the Ras-Lila pastimes of the Lord. Bhayantare gopi deha vrajaya bepaila, sei dehe Krishna sange rasa krida kaila.
The personified authorities on the Vedic hymns acquired bodies like those of the gopis and took birth in Vrajbhumi. In those bodies, they were allowed to enter into the Lord's Ras Lila dance. So these Shruti-gan, they took the form of the gopis, and only the form of the gopis who are born in Vrajbhumi, they are allowed actually to participate in the Ras Lila. So unless I give up my identity, whatever I am attached to, like my false ego, and because of that I may be attached to certain identity, unless and until I give it up, I cannot enter Vrajbhumi. Gopi
Gopa
Jati Krishna Gopi Preyasi Tahara Devi Vanya Stri Krishna Na Kare Angikara.
Lord Krishna belongs to the cowherd community, and the gopis are the dearmost lovers of Krishna. Although the wives of the denizens of heavenly planets are most opulent within the material world, neither they nor any other woman in the material universe can acquire Krishna's association. So Krishna is Gopi Jati. He is a member of cowherd community. And Gopi Priyasi Tahar, and gopis are the dearmost lovers of Krishna. So whoever is there, any other woman, whether she is from the heavenly planets, all the apsaras, or any ordinary women in this material universe, they cannot acquire Krishna's association other than these most exalted gopis. So why this whole discussion and glorification of gopis is happening, and why the example of the Shruti Ganas are given, that unless one accepts the mood of the gopis, follows in their footsteps, and becomes a gopi in their completely purified state, they cannot enter the Ras Lila. So why that is being discussed? Because Chaitanya Mahāprabhu raised a question to Venkat Bhatta that there is no Lord Krishna and Narayana same, but why Lakshmi Devi was not able to enter the Ras dance? So all to answer that, Chaitanya Mahāprabhu is detailing the answer.
Lakshmi chahe se dehe Krishna rasangama Gopika anugahana na kaila bhajana. So here is the key. The goddess of fortune Lakshmi wanted to enjoy Krishna and at the same time retain her spiritual body in the form of Lakshmi. Lakshmi chahe sei dehe. She wanted the same form. As Lakshmi, she wanted to enter in the Ras Leela. However, she did not follow in the footsteps of a gopi in her worship of Krishna. So unless one follows that particular bhav of gopi, one cannot enter Ras Leela. What to talk of goddess Lakshmi? So we should not even dream. Even in our dreams, we should not think. Here we are talking about the most exalted devotee, the dearmost wife of Narayan, who's always there residing on the chest of Narayan, and she was not allowed entry because she was not willing to forsake her spiritual body form of Lakshmi Devi. Anya dehe na paiye rasa vilasa Ataivan nayam shloka kahe Veda Vyasa.
Ved Vyas, the supreme authority on Vedic literature, composed the verse beginning Nayam Sukhapo Bhagavan, because no one can enter into the Ras Leela dance in any body other than that of a gopi. So this verse we read earlier. So this is the point which Ved Vyas has been making, that unless if one wants to enter the Ras Leela, one cannot enter in any other form other than gopi. So this also, Prabhupada uses another verse. He explains this verse with the help of a verse from Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the 9th chapter, where Krishna says, Yanti Deva Vrata Devan, Pritra Yanti Pritrvata, Bhutani Yanti Bhuteje, Yanti Madhyajyo Apimam. So where Krishna is saying that if you worship Devatas, you go to Devatas. If you worship Pitras, you go to Pitras. And if you worship ghosts, you go there. But if you worship me, you come to me. So similarly, if we want to enter the Ras Leela pastimes of the Lord, then that is possible only when we worship and we serve the Lord and we aspire to serve the Lord as in conjugal rasa. So of course, currently we are not spiritually mature and we still have so much contaminations in our hearts, so that we should not try to artificially imitate this pastime the Lord. So there's a huge warning on this, that till the time we are in this material world, we should not try to imitate the Ras Leela pastime of the Lord. We see sometimes that there are some people who try to imitate this pastime, and which is absolutely bogus and should not be done. So unless one achieves or receives a spiritual body like that of a gopi, one should not try to imitate Ras Leela. पूर्वे भट्टिर्मने एकाचीलाभिमाना Srinarayanayena Swayam Bhagavana.
Before this explanation was given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Venkat Bhatt thought that Sri Narayan was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tahara bhajana sarvo parikakshahaya
Shri Vaishnave bhajane sarvoparihaya. Thinking in this way, Venkat Bhatta believed that worship of Narayan was the supreme form of worship, superior to all other processes of devotional service, for it was followed by Sri Vaishnava disciples of Ramanuja Charya. So Venkat Bhatta was convinced that he is worshipping the topmost form of the Lord, and this worship is superior to all other processes of devotional service, as he came in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. Itandra Garva Prabhu Karite Khandana Parihasa Dware Uthai Ete Kavachana.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had understood this misconception of Venkat Bhatt's, and to correct it, the Lord talked so much in a joking way. So he wanted to correct, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to correct, and that's why he raised the whole conversation.
Prabhu kahe bhatta tumi na kari samshaya Swayam Bhagavana Krishna ita nishchaya. The Lord then continued, my dear Venkat Bhatt, please do not continue doubting. Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this is the conclusion of all Vedic literature. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is concluding the whole discussion by this detailed explanation that how Krishna is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Krishnera Vilasa Murti Shri Narayana Ataiva Lakshmi Adye Harite Hamana. Lord Narayan, the opulent form of Krishna, attracts the minds of the goddess of fortune and her followers.
Ete chamsa kala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mritayanti Yuge Yuge. So this verse is from the first canto, 3rd chapter, 28th verse, which is considered the emperor verse or the main verse or the Paribhasha Sutra of Srimad Bhagavatam. All these incarnations of Godhead are either plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions of the Purusha avatars. But Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. In every age, he protects the world through his different features when the world is disturbed by the enemies of Indra. So in this verse we see that the before this 28th verse, there's a whole description of different incarnations, and here it is explained that all these incarnations of God which have just been described either are Amsa or they are Kala. They are either plenary portions or they are parts of the plenary portions of the Purusha avatars. But Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Narayana Haite Krishne Asadharan Guna Ataiva Lakshmir Krishne Trishna Anukshana. Because Krishna has 4 extraordinary qualities not possessed by Narayan. The goddess of fortune Lakshmi always desires his company. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is indicating 4 very specific qualities or guna of Supreme Lord Krishna which is not possessed even by Vishnu. And those 4 qualities are the ones which actually attracts Lakshmi, because that is not there in Vishnu. And what are these 4 qualities? So Krishna is told to be 1, Lila Madhurya, or his pastimes are wonderful and very, very sweet. Then second, he is known as Ras Madhurya, or the relationship which he has with his devotees, and especially the conjugal love, that is very unique. Then third is Venu Madhurya, or his flute, the sound coming from his flute, that is so sweet. And the fourth one is Rupa Madhurya, or Krishna's form is so very beautiful. So Lila Madhurya, Ras Madhurya, Venu Madhurya, and Roop Madhurya. These are the four extraordinary qualities which even the Lord Narayan does not possess.
तुम्ही से पढ़ीला श्लोका से हया प्रमाणा से श्लोके ऐसे कृष्णा स्वयं भगवान. You have recited the shloka beginning with Siddhantatastva Abhedapi. That very verse is evidence that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead.
So this verse was already quoted in the beginning of this chapter when we started the section, the text number 117. Now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so that time Venkat Bhatt quoted and now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is quoting.
Siddhantatastva bhedepi Shrisha Krishna Swarupayoho Rase Not Krishna Ye Krishna Rupam Esha Rasa Sthitihi.
According to transcendental realization, there is no difference between the forms of Krishna and Narayan. Yet in Krishna, there is a special transcendental attraction due to the conjugal mellow, and consequently he surpasses Narayan. This is the conclusion of transcendental mellows. So this verse is quoted or recorded in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, which talks that how there is no difference between Krishna and Narayan, and yet there is a difference. And that difference arises because of the conjugal mellow.
Swayam Bhagavana Krishna Hare Lakshmir Mana Gopikaramana Harite Nare Narayana. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna attracts the mind of the goddess of fortune, but Lord Narayan cannot attract the minds of the gopis. This proves the super excellence of Krishna. So we understand that there is no difference between Krishna and Narayan, and yet there are qualities of Krishna that are not in Narayan, and that what is makes him more and more attractive. And here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining that Krishna is attracted, the goddess of fortune is attracted by Krishna, but gopis are not attracted by Lord Narayan.
Narayana ka katha
Shri Krishna apane gopikare hasya karaite hai Narayane.
To say nothing of Lord Narayan personally, Lord Krishna himself appeared as Narayan just to play a joke on the gopis. So there is this beautiful pastime which is spoken by Narad Muni. He details this pastime that once gopis were searching for Krishna. Krishna was missing and gopis were searching for Krishna, and Krishna wanted to trick them. So Krishna took the form of Narayan and he stood there with his four arms. And these gopis, they came running, and then they see Vishnu's Sakshat, Vishnu standing in front of them. All the gopis, they immediately paid obeisances because they know that he's a supreme lord. And after paying obeisances, they asked, did you see Krishna? Did he come this side? So they were so focused on Krishna, who according to them was just a cowherd boy, that even the supreme Lord Narayan was standing in front of them, and yet they were so fixed in Krishna that they did not budge from their search. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is sort of giving a counter example. So earlier he spoke how Lakshmi became attracted to Krishna, but now he is giving an example that how Krishna himself, when he took the form of Narayan, and the gopis did not get deviated.
Chaturbhuja Murti dekhaye gopi gane rage Se Krishna gopi kara anahe anurage. Although Krishna assumed the four-armed form of Narayan, he could not attract the serious attention of the gopis in ecstatic love. Etakahi Prabhu Tandra Garva Churna Kariya Tanre Sukha Dite Kahe Siddhanta Payaya.
In this way, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu deflated the pride of Venkat Bhatt. But just to make him happy again, he spoke as follows. So Venkat Bhatt was proud of his worship in the sense that he considered that whatever he was doing is the best. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu deflated the pride, but again, because he was a very dear friend and devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so he spoke as follows.
Dukkhana bhaviha bhatta kailu parihasa Shastra siddhant shunayate Vaishnava vishwasa. The Lord pacified Venkat Bhatt by saying, actually whatever I have said is by the way of jest. Kailu parihas. So by the way of jest. Now you can hear from me the conclusion of the Shastras in which every Vaishnava devotee has firm faith. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, he was just pacifying Venkat Bhatt so that he should not feel sad. So he said, I was just saying as a jest, but now I'll tell you the conclusion of these scriptures. Krishna Narayana Yaiche Eka Iswarupa Gopi Lakshmi Bheda Nahi Haya Eka Rupa.
There is no difference between Lord Krishna and Lord Narayan, for they are of the same form. Similarly, there is no difference between the gopis and the goddess of fortune, for they also are of the same form.
Gopi Dware Lakshmi Kare Krishna Sanga Swada Ishwaratve Bheda Manir Haya Parada. The goddess of fortune enjoys the association of Krishna through the gopis. One should not differentiate between the forms of Lord, for such a conception is offensive. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining that the Lakshmi Devi, she enjoys the association of Krishna through the form of gopis. And he is warning that we should not differentiate between the forms of the Lord, because that becomes offensive to the Lord. It's an aparad. Eka Ishwar Bhaktir Dhyana Anurupa Eka Vigrahe Kare Nanakara Rupa.
There is no difference between the transcendental forms of the Lord. Different forms are manifested due to different attachments of different devotees. Now this is very important. Different forms are manifested due to different attachments of different devotees. Actually, the Lord is one, but he appears in different forms just to satisfy his devotees. So the devotees have different sort of desires and they want to see certain pastimes of the Supreme Lord, and the Supreme Lord fulfills all their desires. And that is how he manifests. And if we read the purport of this verse, so Srila Prabhupada has given a very beautiful purport where he is mentioning that many people come and they ask that when we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, whom does Rama refers to? Is Rama referring to Lord Ramachandra, or does it refers to Balaram? And then some people may get angry if we say the one and not the other. But Prabhupada says there, actually there is no difference. If you are worshipping, while chanting, if you think that Rama refers to Lord Ramachandra, or while chanting, if you think that Rama refers to Balaram, both are absolute. The problem is that if we start thinking that Balaram is more powerful than Rama, or Rama is more powerful than Balaram, so they are all at an absolute level.
The same person.
They are the same person in different forms. Of course, there is a problem if we start equating the Supreme Lord with the demigods. So there is a problem, because demigods are not the same person. But then all the incarnations of the Lord, they are the same person. It's coming from the same personality.
So actually this is the misconception of a lot of people who have not been educated in spiritual science in a bona fide Guru Shishya Parampara. So those who have not received this Vedic knowledge in bona fide Guru Shishya Parampara, they say all forms of God is one. Whether it is Shiva, or whether it is Muruga, or whether it is Ganesh, or whether it is Indra
Chandra,
or Chandra,
Surya.
yeah, or it is Krishna, or it is Rama, is the same person. So that is where they make a mistake. Manir yatha vibhagena Nila pita dibhiryutaha Rupa bhedam avapnoti Dhyana bheda tathachutaha. When the jewel known as Vaidurya touches various other materials, it appears to be separated into different colors, and consequently its forms also appears different. Similarly, according to the meditational ecstasy of the devotee, the Lord, who is known as Achyuta, the infallible one, appears in different forms, although he is essentially one. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is quoting a verse which is an analogy to understand that how the Lord manifests different forms according to the different desires of the devotee. So the example is of a Vaidurya gemstone. So Vaidurya stone is a gemstone, and as it comes in touch with different materials, so or different light, so then what happens, it displays a different color. Sometimes it shows a red color, sometimes a green color, sometimes a blue color, sometimes a yellow color. So by coming in touch with different substances, it shows different colors, and sometimes the form also appears to be changed, but the jewel is same. Vaidurya jewel remains the same. Similarly, according to the meditation ecstasy of the devotee is meditating on a particular form of the Lord, and Lord is very pleased to show him that form. भटका है कहाँ आमी जीवा पामारा, कहाँ तुमी से Krishna साक्षात ईश्वरा.
Venkat Bhatt then said, I am an ordinary fallen living entity, but you are Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself.
Agada Ishvara Lila kichu na jani, tumi yei kaha sei satyakari mani. The transcendental pastimes of the Lord are unfathomable, and I do not know anything about them. Whatever you say, I accept as truth. So here Venkat Bhatta is making an amazing statement that the pastimes of the Lord are unfathomable, the knowledge about Him is also unfathomable, and he is taking a humble position that I do not really know it. And of course, Venkat Bhatta in this case, he did not know. And he's saying that, Lord, what have you told me? I accept it as truth. So we see that Arjuna also made a similar statement after Krishna spoke the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita in the 10th chapter, 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th verse. Arjuna says that I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. So Arjuna also accepts the statements, the words coming out of the mouth of the Lord as absolute truth.
More Purna Kripa Kaila Lakshmi Narayana Tanra Kripa Painu Toma Charana Darshana. I have been engaged in the service of Lakshmi Narayan, and it is due to their mercy that I have been able to see your lotus feet. So again, a very beautiful transcendental humility he is reflecting, where he is not taking any credit to himself, and he is saying, by the mercy of Lakshmi Narayan, I am able to have your darshan. Kripa kari kaile more Krishna Mahima Yanga Rupa Guna Aishwarya Kehana Pasima.
Out of your causeless mercy, you have told me of the glories of Lord Krishna. No one can reach the end of the opulence, qualities and forms of the Lord. So here Venkat Bhatt is identifying that actually Lord Chaitanya, you have been so merciful to me, and therefore you have revealed these glories of Lord Krishna. Otherwise I had not known, and there was no other way of knowing it also. And of course, there is no other way. Unless God tells us, we cannot know about God. So it's a very, very important principle. Unless God tells us about Himself, we cannot know about God on our own. So Lord comes and directly instructs. God gives us scriptures. God gives us the bona fide Guru Shishya Parampara, and through them we can actually know the opulence, qualities and forms of Lord. Ebise janinu Krishna Bhakti Sarvopari Kritartha Karile More Kahi Kripakari.
I can now understand that devotional service unto Lord Krishna is the supreme form of worship. Out of your causeless mercy, you have made my life successful simply by explaining the facts.
Bali bhatta paila Prabhura charane Kripa kari Prabhu tanre kaila alingane. After saying this, Venkat Bhatta fell down before the lotus feet of the Lord, and the Lord, out of His causeless mercy, embraced him. Chaturmasya purna haila bhatta MadhyaLila9 Dakshina Chalila Prabhu Shri Ranga dekhiya.
When the period of Chaturmas was completed, Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu took permission to leave from Venkat Bhatt, and after visiting Sri Ranga, he proceeded further towards southern India. Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So with this, we have completed this most wonderful discussion which started, the discussion started in a very joyous mood where there was some teasing and fun elements going around, and then gradually Mahaprabhu actually revealed such high top level secrets of devotional service. So we are very grateful to Krishnadas Kaviraj for writing down, and Srila Prabhupada for giving us these beautiful purports and translations so that we can actually enter into the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
And
So-
and Venkat Bhatta,
And Venkat Bhatta.
through him we came to know all this.
So it was a very sweet session with lot of learning, very important, significant learning, which would form the foundation of our devotional life ahead. So we would wait to hear from you, to note your comments as what is your learning, and we will further continue our South India Yatra in the next class. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.